Launch control, this is Houston. We are go for launch.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's ChrisXradio.
ChrisXradio.
What we need right now is a clear message to the people of this country. This message must be read in every newspaper, heard on every radio, seen on every television. This message must resound throughout the entire interlink.
And now, your host,
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Chris X.
Wait, did you just tell me to shut up and talk? Okay, just double checking, making sure. Good afternoon and welcome to ChrisXradio. I am the aforementioned X-Man here on your Manic Monday edition of the program. Oh, it's another week, another day, another dollar, or in my case, another nickel, whatever, and whatever gets you there. Glad to have you here with us as we are ready to rock and roll through another week. And boy, we got a sure it'll be a busy one. Man, it's still, like I said, there's still some flooding happening up in Central Texas. So you guys, I think they had to postpone the search in certain areas because there was more flooding with a lot of the rain. And I know the ranch that I go up to, they've gotten so much rain. I can't even go up. The animals tore down my feeder. I can't even go put it back together because it's too muddy. So... like, I don't know when I'm going to go do it. They've already, and then they ran off with the little holder of the tank, I guess, where you put the food in, and they've taken off of that. I have no idea where that is now. So we'll see. I may be out of a feeder. But oh well, it is what it is. Anyway, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. I am the aforementioned X-Man, along with the one and only Gary Bohemoth. He is large and in charge. He has assumed control of the airwaves. He will maintain control of these airwaves for the next 2 hours, as, of course, we come bearing that gift beyond price that is almost free. We've got a guest today. Bob Price will join us here at the bottom of the hour. He's got, well, there are a few great articles, but an exclusive 1,361 criminal illegal aliens arrested by ICE, Houston, in June alone, including 32 child predators and 9 killers. Yeah, let's assault ICE police officers for that. Good call on that one. Anyway, he's got that, but that's not all. He's also got, there's a Texas man wrote an alleged threat to assassinate Trump, which, by the way, yesterday marked 1 year since Trump was nearly assassinated, had a bullet go through his ear. Missed his brain by about 1/4 of an inch. You just look at how different the world would be. That would have thrown the world into chaos. But instead, he survived. Feels as though he survived for a reason. God saved him to save our country, and I sure hope so. Hope that's the case. Anyway, so we got that we can get into, and I'm sure we may talk to Bob about that a little bit. And Bob talks about the monumental cleanup going on and the recovery efforts being paused due to those deadly Texas floods. So, and they, like I said, it's still happening. And I've seen, okay, so first the Democrats blame Donald Trump for the flooding, and then they try to blame global warming, and now we have certain Republicans blaming Governor Abbott. It's Governor Abbott and his team of 31 people that somehow are cloud seeding. They snuck in and did it without anybody knowing about it and used cloud seeding. I guess they're just murderous killers, murderous thugs wanting to kill people. So they went and cloud seeded. If cloud seeding is that effective, then why are we in a 2+ year drought in the same area? Why are they waiting until the holiday weekend to do the seeding, if it's in fact that effective? Oh, that's right, because these people are crazy. the ones you've probably seen on social media. This is why anytime I ask people where they get their information from, because if they're getting it from social media, you're probably getting it from possibly people like that because they tend to be the loudest. And I've seen some people say, well, I don't blame Abbott, but there's this 31 member of people who donate to his campaign and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, really? There's plenty of real stuff out there to go after Governor Abbott on, okay? But once again, it's kind of like the anti-Cornyn people. Don't get me wrong. I don't like John Cornyn, but I know he's with us 75, 80% of the time. I like him better than any Democrat. But when it comes to voting, I'm very pragmatic. I will take a lame-ass John Cornyn over any Democrat any day of the week. And you got to be smart when it comes to voting. Oh, and I know everybody's going to be mad. Listen, I have a different take. If you listen to the Amigos, which I did on Friday, they don't, and hey, they're maybe smarter than me. I know they are in some cases. But when it comes to, they don't seem to think there's anything much is going to come from that, the Ken Paxton situation where his wife went onto social media, basically called him out for new allegations of cheating, said they're getting a divorce. And man, it was dog pile central on Ken Paxton. They just and Ken Paxton had a statement that wasn't very good, and it was dog pile central. And this is where women, if you lose women voters, you're done. That's the point I'm trying to make. If you lose women voters, and the old adage, a woman scorned. Why is she coming out now? I mean, clearly the guy's been, having affairs for a while. And I guess they supposedly tried to work it out. I don't know. Their situation, none of my business, honestly. It really isn't any of my business. But that being said, if you're going through I'm sorry, I can't shirk any of the blame from Ken Paxton. Not that, like I said, you're running as a conservative Christian Republican, and you're busy running around having affairs. That's not going to bode well. It's not a good look for you. And then your wife files for divorce right in the middle of your campaign running for U.S. Senate for John Cornyn's seat, who's, whether you like him or not, I know everybody's going to get so mad at me for this because I've had debates with Republicans before. They get so mad because they're so emotional, and they claim to not be emotional, and they hate Democrats who are always voting emotional, but they're so emotional, I'll never vote for Cornyn again. Why? Because of 2 or 3 votes? Yeah, he sucks sometimes. But 75, 80% of the time, he's right on board. In fact, tell me where he's been off with Trump here recently. He's a follower. He follows who's in charge. If you got a dirtbag lefty in charge, you're going to get some dirtbag lefty votes out of John Cornyn. That's why I would like to replace him in a primary. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to put up a candidate good enough to come close to beating him. Ken Paxton, up until this last weekend, probably could. Anyway, that's not even what I had lined up. I just know people are going to get mad because I'm still not sold on who I'm voting for. I want to wait and see some of the polls. If I think Ken Paxton is going to, if he's going to win and he can win in the general, I'm there. If he can't, I do not want him to squeak by a John Cornyn only to get obliterated because he can't carry women votes in a general, because the Democrats will absolutely 100% use that against him in a general election. And women often are very emotional voters. I know there's women listening right now that are not, but there are women voters right now that were possibly leaning towards a Ken Paxton, and right now there are no way. Matt Locke called me the other day. Was like, what the hell is going on, man? In Texas with Ken Paxton and his wife. Why is she doing this now? And I kind of, went through it. By the time we were done, he's like, yeah. Is she burning the house down before this goes on? I don't know. Does he deserve this? I don't know. Probably. But nonetheless, it's a bad idea if you're going to be a Republican running on conservative values to be running around on your wife. It's a bad look. And if you're doing it, and And Ken Paxton, honestly, like I said, this is one of the reasons I've hesitated before. As much as I love what he has done as our Attorney General, and I voted for him for Attorney General, I'd vote for him again. But like I said, that's a different position than a state senator. I'm sorry, a U.S. senator from Texas. So, but I don't know. He's got a lot of scandal follow him around. Is all of it, due a purpose? No. But a lot of it is, this is a self-inflicted wound on Ken Paxton, and I guess we shall see how it all plays out. But nonetheless, okay, so speaking of sort of self-inflicted, the whole Epstein thing, which honestly, I don't know how much there is to it. I mean, I went and did a little bit more research over Epstein over the weekend, and Trump's response, even though, like I said, clearly they're hiding something. They're not giving the information. Now, there may be a perfectly valid reason for it, but when you campaign on it, once again, bad luck, self-inflicted wound. So there you go. But the media, of course, and Democrats, there's a war within MAGA. It's a MAGA civil war. I don't think there's a MAGA civil war going on. There's some people upset. Oh, and it's meme-tastic. Oh, the memes are everywhere. Some of them are hilarious. But there's actually a lot of other stuff going on. It's pretty important, like President Trump giving Russia 50 days to make a Ukraine deal or face sanctions. He was given, they're selling all kinds of weaponry to Ukraine today, which is good. So I guess, Ukraine needs it. And Trump was talking about Vladimir Putin. He says, he wants a ceasefire, and then turns around and bombs the hell out of everybody. Okay. He bombs the hell out of everything. It's not good. So Trump's having, so much for all that on day one talk. Remember that? On day one, I'll solve that problem. It's a little bit more difficult than you anticipated. And when the world is different than it was the first time he was in office. So Trump has his hands, and I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying it's a little different. And that's occasionally. Now, the thing is, Trump's trying. I give him credit for that. He is absolutely 100% trying. And I'm so tired of seeing the social media. Donald Trump was golfing when the flooding was occurring and people were dying. The flood occurred at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 to 4 a.m. So Donald Trump was golfing at that time? Okay, I got you. And then, like I said, there's on both sides. It's social media. That's why I don't get my news from social media. Former President Joe Biden admitted to the New York Times that he did not individually sign off each of the pardons issued via his auto pen signature to a batch of criminals at the end of his term, though he reportedly delineated criteria to staff. So Joe Biden outsourced his own presidency and his own pardons. I'm pretty sure he had something to do with his pardons of his family and Humper Biden. Also, today, 60% of Democrats still believe that Donald Trump colluded with Russia to win the 2016 election. You want to know why the media and the Democrats say it over and over again and why they keep doing it? This is why. It keeps 60% of their base fired up on their behalf on fake news. Completely fake news. Tom Homan says ICE has found 10,000 missing kids that were trafficked in during the Biden-Harris administration. Over 300,000 children they lost track of. Many of them saying, we don't know the person we're with. They didn't care. It is amazing how the Biden administration, the Bidens and Democrats run around talking about, we care about children. And they don't give a damn about these trafficked kids and what's happening to them as they come across the border. And speaking of ICE, here's the other thing, too. As ICE tries to do this job, I'm sure you heard about the marijuana farm that the illegal aliens were working at. They're picking the new crops, which is weed in California. So they're picking the weed crops in California. It was a bunch of illegal aliens, including some murderers and some bad people, and a bunch of trafficked children. Illegals. But don't worry, California's Democrat left, they're attacking ICE agents over it. ICE agents face a 700% spike in assaults as Antifa groups target their homes. It's unbelievable. It's funny. Democrats want their little foot soldiers, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, people, starting the fiery but mostly peaceful protests. They want them to be able to wear masks. They absolutely get to wear masks, and you can't make them take them off. But when it comes to ICE agents, no. You are not allowed to wear masks. We're allowed to do what we want to do when we want to do it. You are screwed. No, you do what we tell you when we tell you, and if you don't, we will dox you and do everything else. These people are dirtbags. It still amazes me that anyone would side with the left on anything, with the Democrats on virtually anything. I don't care how important certain little issues are for you. When you side with the party of totalitarianism, do you guys remember what California was doing during COVID? You remember with the guy on a freaking, it was a paddleboard or whatever, and he was 1,000 yards out in the middle of the ocean away from everyone, and freaking they said that they talk about ICE being the Gestapo. They sent their Gestapo out to arrest a guy on a surfboard by himself in the ocean. Why? Was because COVID was going to come somehow get him by himself in the ocean and then somehow kill everybody? I think people have forgotten just how bad it got during COVID and what the Democrats did, and now they're running around, ICE or Gestapo. How dare they round up murderers and rapists and people committing crimes in our country that aren't even legally allowed to be here and get rid of them. And then you got people, dirtbags like, was it Hakeem Jeffries? We need to be spending money on the people that are here in this country, the illegals that are here in the country, not getting ones out. So they open the borders, allow the illegals here, and then tell us you got to spend the money on the illegals here, and you can't spend any money stopping them from being here or getting rid of. If they didn't have double standards, they'd have none at all. All right, let's take a break. You're listening to Chris X Radio. We may have time for a call, but don't forget our guest, Bob Price from Breitbart, Texas. Breitbart. He's been working with them for over a decade now, and he is one of my favorite authors over there at Breitbart. The guy does bang-up job, man. Does great work over there. If Donald Trump was talking about him, he'd say he's fantastic, he's huge, he's tremendous, he's wonderful. He's not like those other fake news outlets, okay? Bob Price deals with real news, and he's a real journalist, okay? All right, 281-558-KSEV. You're listening to Chris X Radio, and we're just getting rolling. Don't you go anywhere.
Elections have consequences. So does your radio dial. Don't touch it. Chris X Radio returns after this.
When your vehicle leaves you stranded or you need car repair without the tow charge, call Mobile Mechanic of Houston. For cars, trucks, or RVs, we'll come to you. Call 281-679-0000. The website, mobilemechanicofhouston.com, 281-679-0000.
Everyone knows the BBB is the Better Business Bureau, but depending on what you need, it's the Better Plumber Bureau, the Better Auto Mechanic Bureau, the Better Accountant Bureau. That's because the BBB connects people with businesses they can trust. So think of the BBB as the better check that business out first so you don't get ripped off bureau. Be smart. Always look for the BBB seal because it's looking out for you. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
In times of tragedy, it's easy to feel helpless. We wonder what to say. We're worried about saying the wrong thing. But Dr. Bruce Perry reminds us, what heals is not perfect words, it's just showing up. A meal, a text, a moment of kindness. Tiny doses of connection that remind us that we're not alone. You don't have to fix it all, just show up. That's enough. That's everything.
Be a Planner Show host Nathan Ross wants to remind you, please consider all the syndication terms of your private real estate partnership. By understanding the syndication math, Nathan can help you assess the benefits of ownership. Visit beaplanner.com or tune in each Friday mornings at 11 and Sunday at 7 a.m. for the Be a Planner Show with Nathan Ross, CPA, on KSEV.
Plumbing emergencies never happen at a convenient time. Nix Plumbing offers free estimates and free second opinions. Call Nix Plumbing and Sewer Services, 713-868-9907, or visit us on the web, nixplumbing.com.
MPL 38548. Hi, y'all. It's Kathy from Baker Mortgage. You know, with all the scary stuff we've been through, it's still true that timing is everything, and the time to buy is now. But don't go looking without a solid pre-approval in hand. And this includes an application and a detailed discussion about property taxes. If you didn't have the talk, about property taxes, you really don't know what you're pre-approved for. That should make you wonder what else they may have left out. Mortgages are personal. Let's face it, we're dealing with your home and your money, and it doesn't get much more personal than that. When it's the largest transaction that most people will ever be involved in, imagine having someone on your side looking out after you. What a concept. We audit your closing statement to make sure you're not paying for things that you're not supposed to. Do you think your big bank's going to do that? Probably not. For all of your mortgage needs, call us at Baker Mortgage. I promise you'll be glad you did. We're at 281-313-MOVE or go directly to bakermortgage.com.
Equal housing lender. License number 263213.
Hi, I'm Tommy Mello with Garage Door Doctors. My mom recently moved into a new home with a builder-grade garage door. Noisy, flimsy, and not built to last, so we're fixing that. Mom, you're my hero. When I was growing up, she worked 3 jobs just to save our house.
And helped you build this company.
Now I'm giving her a beautiful new garage door that's built to last. The garage is 40% of your home's curb appeal. When it looks good and it works great.
Life is good. Thanks, Tommy.
From repairs to upgrades, call Garage Door Doctor today.
You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. Chris X Radio.
Such a cool song. I love this guitar riff. And it's got cowbell, so you can't complain about that. All right, so somebody just sent me this. This is good. Crust Pizza Company, Dine and Donate is tomorrow, 7/15. That's July 15th. Give $15 and get a $15 voucher with purchase. Help Kerr County families recover. One day only. So there you go. At Crust Pizza Company. I don't know if it's all of them or just a particular one or what. You can check, but so if you want to go help out, a lot of people are donating and helping out. Of course, they need all the help they can get with the terrible flooding, which I just saw again. It looks like it's supposed to be raining again up in the hill country today. So this additional rain and flooding is not conducive to what they're having to go through. So anyway, welcome back to Chris X Radio. I'm the aforementioned X-Man, along with Gary Behemoth. He's fresh off a golf course somewhere. During the break, he's trying to talk me into going and playing golf. It's a sport I probably should take up, but I've never played an official round. So I've gone on the fairways and hit a few that either sliced or hooked. I don't know what it is, but they usually end up in somebody's yard. I can hit it far. I can do that, but it's my golf swing looks a lot like a baseball swing. So. And I'm thinking golf is low impact enough. I probably could do it, but I haven't. I just quit playing baseball a couple years ago, 3 years ago maybe, because I don't like being out in the heat during the day. So being out in the heat during the day playing golf, I don't know if I want to do that either. So, but I know that's very much I should go do that, do the business meetings on the golf course. Should go do some of that. But I'm not like a pro golfer like Mr. Behemoth over there. That guy's like a pro. Well, he drinks, though they drink beer. So he's like a professional drinker who plays golf. So it's one of those. I just wonder if he uses Lone Star beer. Is he drinking that one or probably whatever beer is cold and in front of him? I think Gary's motto for life is it's better to have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. Hard to argue with that, right? Can't argue with that kind of logic. Bob Price, associate editor and senior news contributor with Breitbart News, will join us here in the next segment. In fact, we'll go ahead and take a break now because we got a lot to talk with Bob about. Oh, my God. His last 3 articles are good enough, but there's more than that. He said, like I said, we can touch on a bunch, but 1,361 criminal illegal aliens arrested by ICE in Houston in June. including 32 child predators and 9 killers. That's what your friends are protesting on the other side. That's what your Democrats are. They're throwing rocks at these people and doxing ICE agents over them. They're protecting the criminals. Why do Democrats protect criminals? Oh, because they are criminals. Oh, that's right. I always forget. You protect your own kind, right? I will just leave it at that. All right, let's take a break. Bob Price joins us here next on Chris X Radio. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Tune in each Saturday at 11 for Financial Safari with host Marty Neville, president of Smart Money Solutions, for tips, trends, and answers on how to structure assets and build retirement income. That's each Saturday at 11 right here on AM 700 KSEV.
From the KSEV Weather Center, tonight will be clear and humid with a low of 78. Tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies with a high of 95 and a chance of a thunderstorm in the afternoon. Tomorrow night will be clear and humid, dropping to 77. Wednesday will bring mostly sunny conditions with a high of 95. Thursday will feature sunshine with a few clouds and a high of 95. Friday is expected to be mostly cloudy with widely separated thunderstorms in the afternoon and a high of 94. With the KSEV Weather Center forecast, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jason Caterina.
This report sponsored by Gallery Furniture. If made in America is important to you, come to Gallery Furniture. Buy it today, get it today. Gallery Furniture saves you money.
In times of tragedy, it's easy to feel helpless. We wonder what to say. We're worried about saying the wrong thing. But Dr. Bruce Perry reminds us, what heals is not perfect words, it's just showing up. A meal, a text, a moment of kindness. Tiny doses of connection that remind us that we're not alone. You don't have to fix it all, just show up. That's enough. That's everything.
Who is this poolside party pro? This Lake Day legend? Spoiler alert, it's you. Fresh off a Specs run, cooler stacked and savings snagged. Frozen margaritas? Check. Canned cocktails? Obviously. That one rosé your friend always raves about? Got it. With Specs' epic selection, you didn't just show up, you showed off. Be the friend who brings the good stuff. The Specs Summer Expert. Specs, cheers to savings.
This is Kevin O'Hara with O'Hara & Company Real Estate. The country and the world are changing for the good. If you're watching the mainstream media, that's not the message you're getting. They've been brainwashing you for years. Dig into the real news and wake up. You were born free and freedom was given to you by God. The word government is derived from the Greek words meaning to steer a rudder. That should tell you something. God put us here to love one another no matter what race, religion, or ethnic group. And I'll admit sometimes I have a problem doing this, but I'm working on it. If you need a real estate company, call O'Hara & Company Real Estate at 281-373-3393 or look us up on the web at o'harare.com. Also, if you're looking for a home builder, remodeling, patio cover, any type of construction projects, give O'Hara Homes a call at 281-373-3393. And here's my grandson.
This is Katie Martinez. God bless America and God bless Texas. One more thing. God bless my pawpaw.
And now, back to Chris X Radio on the voice of Texas.
Oh, yeah, little Lenny Kravitz. All right, Gary, God bless my pawpaw, okay? If you don't God bless your pawpaw, you ain't worth a damn. I'll just say that. All right, welcome back to Chris X Radio. It's time to catch up with our guest, Mr. Bob Price. He is the associate editor and senior news contributor with Breitbart News. He's always kind enough to join us and talk about some of his latest work, and he's been doing a lot of it over at Breitbart.com. Bob, thanks for joining us. Always good to catch up with you.
Hey, Chris, good to talk to you again.
It's good to talk with you as well. Okay, so you've got the last 3 articles you wrote. All of them are killer articles. They're great. But I wanted to start off with the one, especially with the news with the people trying to dox ICE agents and all the trouble. you cover just in Houston alone 1,361 criminal aliens arrested by ICE in Houston in June, included 32 child predators and 9 killers, and people that those on the left have somehow determined they want to protect those people from federal agents, so they're attacking federal agents. It is utter insanity, and the numbers in your article are crazy. I want to talk about that. That's some pretty high numbers of criminal illegal aliens in our city.
Well, let's put this in perspective, Chris. This is 1,361 criminal aliens just in the Houston area of operation in the month of June. So this doesn't count San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, all of these other major cities around Fort Worth, all the other major cities around the state. This is just, or around the country. This is just in the Houston area. And 32 of these people were child predators, had either convictions or outstanding charges for sex crimes against children. 9 of them had charges or convictions for murder. And these are dangerous people. And that is, by and large, who ICE is picking up around the country. And yet you see these dirtbags, pardon my French here, but coming after these ICE agents and not just protesting against them. I mean, if it was protest, that'd be one thing. But interfering with their duties as law enforcement officers, attacking them violently, and now we're seeing even cases where they are shooting at ICE and Border Patrol agents.
It's disgusting. And when you say dirtbags, you're being too kind, because I use that term as well. So they are dirtbags. And then there's, you talk about, like I said, people trying to murder them. It shows what lunacy, and especially with those on the left up in Congress that are calling for more of this sort of violent rhetoric, I guess, if you will, till they eventually kill somebody, and then they'll back off for about 2 minutes and then be right back at it. But you almost undersold the number. It was 1,361 criminal aliens. You didn't even mention the 16 documented members of a transnational gang or the drug cartel, but you did mention that it was in June. From the previous month, when officers arrested 1,249 criminal aliens in the Houston area. So, in other words, this wasn't just a one-off. We're seeing these kind of numbers each month now being pulled out of our city.
Yeah, and I tried to get numbers from ICE about how many they'd done in June of last year, but unfortunately the Biden administration wasn't keeping track of that information at this detailed, granular level where they could tell you just out of the Houston office what they had. But you were talking members of the Serranos 13 gang, Tren de Aragua, MS-13, Cartel Jalisco New Generation, the most violent cartel in Mexico, Tango Blast. All of these different kinds of groups, many of these have been declared foreign terrorist organizations by the Trump administration. And that's who they're picking up just in the Houston area. So it's a very scary thing to think that these people are, not only that they're running around, but they're running around so publicly that ICE is able to pick them up so easily. They're not hiding underground. They're not hiding in the shadows, the term the left likes to use a lot. These guys are out there where ICE is able to just find them and pick them up. And it's up by 100 and something from the month before, and several hundred from a couple months before that. So hats off to the Houston Field Office of Enforcement and Removal Operations at ICE. They're doing a great job, and I'm looking forward to meeting with the director down there sometime here in the next few weeks.
We're talking with Bob Price, Associate Editor and Senior News Contributor with Breitbart News. By the way, people need to be following Bob on social media at Bob Price BBTX on Twitter X. So make sure you're following him there. And he's on, I guess he's on all the social media, so you can find him pretty much everywhere. And Bob, like I said, you bring up an interesting point. Is the numbers actually are going up? So do you anticipate those numbers continuing to rise over the coming months, or do you think they're going to start heading back in the other direction now that they're taking a lot of these people off the streets?
Unfortunately, there's a lot more still out there, and they're out on the streets every day. Fortunately, in Houston, they're able to pick up some of these people in the county jail when they get arrested, because even though Harris County Jail is not participating in the 287G program, they are fully cooperating with ICE, and there are ICE agents actually in the jail, so they can safely take people into custody, which is why you see the dangerous type of things happening out in Los Angeles. California and Chicago and even New York won't allow ICE agents in Maryland into their jails. And so when they're trying to pick up these dangerous criminals, they can't do it in the safety behind bars. They have to go out on the streets. And that's where you see these confrontations coming up, which puts everybody in danger. And it's just, it can so easily be fixed. You've got this, I'm trying to be polite here, let's just say Biden-appointed federal judge prohibiting ICE agents from enforcing the law in the Los Angeles area now, saying that they can't go to Home Depot and they can't go to some of the other places where illegal aliens frequently hang out looking for day labor jobs. You see it all over Houston with the Home Depots here in Houston. Every day you see them lined up out there. So, this federal judge somehow ordering cops not to enforce the law. What is up with that?
It's bizarre because when Democrats are in charge, they can ignore federal immigration laws and ignore the laws they don't want to follow, and they're virtually immune from anything happening to them. But then when it comes to somebody who's in charge that actually will enforce federal immigration laws, then they come up and they make cities and areas, they somehow, I guess, I don't know what other term to call it, legalize them and force federal agents from being able to do their job, which, by the way, you mentioned that brings in another thing I was talking about today was, I know you had an article about $50,000 reward offered for a man who allegedly fired on federal agents at that marijuana farm in California. So they had people firing on them. We've had, two federal agents shot in recent weeks. And then what they found at this marijuana farm in California, of course, illegal criminals that have committed crimes, but also some of these children that had been trafficked into our country where over 300,000 the Biden administration had lost. Some of them are found. Is it slave labor? Is it forced labor? This is crazy. This is happening in America. And there are people, the hardest part of the job of the ICE agents, as you mentioned, is now trying to get to and from the places to go and do their job because you've got people attacking them with rocks and guns and God knows what.
Well, let's be clear about rocks. These aren't river rocks that you would skip across a lake. These are bricks that they're throwing at the windshields, at the driver's windows of these ICE vehicles as they're trying to leave the facilities. One guy out there in California that they're trying to capture now is firing his handgun at the agents as he's fleeing, trying to keep from being arrested there at the scene. And that's the kind of danger that these guys are being put in. Now, one thing I said this weekend on our Fox 26 What's Your Point show is we need to look at who these protesters are. I promise you, these aren't people that care. They could care less about the immigration issue. These are anarchists. This is Antifa, anarchy, and their illegal immigration is just their cause du jour. So, 2 years ago or 4 years ago, it was Black Lives Matter. Then it was all the LGBTQ protests where they turned violent in those. And now it's immigration. They could care less what the cause is. Their mission is to instill anarchy and chaos in the United States, and they're very good at it. And it's very organized. You always see these pallets of bricks showing up with these protests alongside the roadways that they're using to throw at police vehicles. And you saw it in Los Angeles. We saw it here in Houston during the No Kings rally. We saw it in San Antonio. And, this has got to stop. We've got to declare this Antifa-based group to be a domestic terrorist organization, go after their funding, find out who's organizing this stuff, and put a stop to it. This is not protest. This is violence.
Yeah, boy, 100%. Yeah, it's, like I said, they're running out of excuses. First it was fiery but peaceful, and now they're going to be bloody but peaceful. I don't know where they go, but you're right. They need to find out who's funding this, who's paying for these bricks, who's allowing these, like you said, these Antifa, these crazy people, these radical domestic terrorists is what they are, and they're committing violence. They're not protesting. There's a big difference.
Chris,
and then
a DWI driver that kills a family of 6 is not a mostly sober driver. Okay, and that's what they're trying to pass off these things these mostly peaceful protests. It's either violent or it's not. And in these cases, they're violent.
Yeah, they really are. So they're dangerous. All right, so that's not all you wrote about. I want to hit on a couple other things. Yesterday marked 1 year since the attempted assassination of President Trump, where he was shot through the ear, quarter of an inch to the left or the right, and then you've got Lord knows where we are today as a country, and of course as a world. With like I said, that would have thrown the world into chaos with the leading candidate, running assassinated on stage while campaigning. Fortunately, and thank God, Trump, said he believes he was spared for a reason, to help save the country. But that's not the only one. There was another terrorist attack shortly after, where they, I think it was within a month or two of, they tried to, the guy on the golf course. And then you wrote an article, which got very little coverage anywhere else. In fact, I don't even recall seeing it, where there's a guy here in Texas that wrote a threat to assassinate President Trump. Let's talk about this article as well.
Yeah, so one of the news stations in San Antonio had done an article about President Trump coming out to observe the horribly tragic drownings and flooding that took place in the Kerrville area on Independence Day weekend. Just a tremendous loss of life. We still have 170 or so people. They're not even able to continue the searching there because the flooding still continues. So the news station wrote an article about the president's visit, and as the anniversary of the Butler shooting took place or was coming up, he writes in there, "I won't miss," and had a picture of Trump from the Butler after the Butler shooting. And so, there's a very clear message that he was threatening the president of the United States. And then somebody responded to that and said, "You won't get the chance." And the guy responded, I'll come for you." Robert Herrera, 52 years old, San Antonio resident, and he's now in the custody of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, facing federal charges for a threat to assassinate the President of the United States.
And I'm glad that, like I said, you're catching people like this, but there are people still out there that would absolutely, like I said, that will kill the president or kill other people, and the guys like this, not only will they kill them, they'll kill you too if you question them. So they're really not good people. There's some very dangerous people out there, and we're seeing it a year after, the president was, like I said, they were so close to killing Trump. I mean, it's literally a miracle that he survived that. So, and it was just one of the moments. And I think over history, over time and history, that will be a monumental moment in the history of this nation as we go forward. Also, and you mentioned a little earlier the flooding. It was not this last weekend, but the previous, where the terrible situation where the flooding hit in the middle of the night, and we still don't have a full death count. It's over 100, still over 100 missing. But where you write an article, covering the monumental cleanup efforts going on, but they're having to pause them in certain areas. In fact, they was doing it today, but also over the weekend, because they're still getting rain and more flooding as well.
It is, and it's not just rain in the Kerrville area. It goes all the way up into Llano and Lampasas, all the San Saba River, Lampasas River, all of these places where the rain comes up in these higher elevations, and it gets funneled into these canyons, and it might not even be raining in Hunt, Texas, but you're getting a 6-foot wall of water come down the river now because of rain 100 miles away. It's got nowhere to go except down that river canyon. And so it is very dangerous. And of course, obviously everybody's extremely sensitive right now, so they're going to sound the warning horns every time there's a drop of rain, probably for a while, for some foreseeable future. But let's be clear about this. The state of Texas issued warnings well in advance of the rains Friday morning. On Thursday afternoon, about 18 hours before the massive flood of rain came in, the Texas Division of Emergency Management sent out a press release and announced that they were deploying resources in anticipation of what they called severe flooding. So, people need to be paying attention to that. Now, I go camping in an RV, and oftentimes we camp along a river or along a lake or something like that. And, you want to be away from your cell phone. You turn them off. You turn the ringers off. You don't want to be contacted by that noise and that kind of stuff. But when you're in these situations, especially in June and July, where we have a tragic history over decades of these weekend mass flood things that happen, and you have to be paying attention to this stuff. It's your responsibility ultimately for your own safety, and unfortunately, Kerr County didn't have all the equipment maybe that they could have or should have. I understand it's the only county that doesn't have sirens, but when you look at the size of that county and the length of these multiple canyons that they'd have to, I mean, how many sirens do you have to have? If you got it in this canyon, can you hear it a mile down the road? Probably not. And so it's a process that the state of Texas, the governor added this to the upcoming special session to look at, and they're going to try to find ways to do this better, and we probably can do it better. But ultimately, people have to take responsibility for their own safety when you're dealing with Mother Nature, whether it's on a surfboard out in shark country or camping on a river in a canyon that's prone to flooding. I used to go to Camp La Junta, which is just a very short distance from Camp Mystic, where all these poor young girls were killed. And we were down there all the time at the river doing all kinds of stuff. But there's a 400-foot hill right behind La Junta, and we'd run up to the top of that hill almost every day. One of the problems they have with issuing evacuation orders in Kerr County is you have a lot of tourists there that don't have any idea what to do, and they hear a siren, they might think they need to get in their car and drive someplace, and next thing you know, that they're getting washed away as they go through a low water crossing. Or in this case, it didn't even have to be a low water crossing when the water comes up 38 feet in 45 minutes. So it's a very dangerous place. You need to have a plan when you're out dealing with Mother Nature, out on a boat in the middle of a huge lake or out in the Gulf of Mexico. If you're dealing with nature, you've got to be prepared.
Yeah, it's interesting because I go up to that area. I know the Llano River very well and some of those areas. And you're right, many times it's so dry, there's just little pockets of water and it's not even running. But in an instant, that can change, and it doesn't, as you just point out, it doesn't have to be raining where you're at. It can be perfectly dry, and here comes a wall of water. And if you're not prepared and know what to do, it makes, and of course this hit in the middle of the night, so it was a double, triple whammy. It was just terrible kind of all the way around. But you're absolutely right. In 1 minute, everything can change, and you kind of have to have a plan, and hopefully they can come up with something to help a little better. But you're right, people go to those areas, the tourists, and there was a lot of tourists there. We see many of these victims were not from the area, and like I said, you go there to get away from it all. You go there to turn off your cell phone and gather. And of course now, once again, as these rescuers or searchers now are still in these rivers, they're walking right through the middle of these riverbeds. So fortunately, these warnings are coming during the middle of the day, and they can hear. And you got to get out of there, get out of the way. Whatever's going to pass through, and then very shortly, very quickly, they can be right back at it. But it's, as you just mentioned, it's a very dangerous, and it's so innocuous when you're there. Oh, this is just a cool, little riverbed. This is so cool. And then, like I said, next thing you know, here's a wall of water coming at you, and it's always bigger than what you think. So it's those familiar with the area know the difference.
The only blessing in this whole thing is that it didn't happen 24 hours later. Friday morning, most of the people that were coming to camp for the extended 3-day weekend weren't there yet. And just imagine if, many of those RV camps and that kind of thing were at 60, 70% occupancy at the time of the flood. If that had been 24 hours later, they would have all been at 100% occupancy, and it would have been much worse.
Yeah, it really would have. Well, Bob, as always, thanks for your time. Bob Price, Associate Editor and Senior News Contributor with Breitbart News. Once again, follow him on social media at Bob Price, BBTX. And as always, keep up the great work, Bob. Always great to hear from you. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Chris. See you next time.
All right, we'll see you next time. Once again, Bob Price does fantastic work over at Breitbart. In fact, he's clearly one of my favorite, authors over there. But he's what you call a real journalist. People should look into that. I know, it's what a concept, huh? Fake news could use a few guys like Bob. All right, let's take a break. 281-558-KSEV. We'll come back, wrap up this first hour, get you locked and loaded for hour number 2. Don't you go anywhere. You're listening to Chris X Radio, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Chris X Radio. Chris X Radio on AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas.
So if you got AC problems, hey, it's Chris Salcedo. You can call Abacus Plumbing. Abacus techs are licensed and certified to work on all top brands and can give you the best options for your home and budget. Make sure you ask about the latest whole home air purification system. It kills germs, odors, allergens, viruses. Abacus has you covered with attic insulation, solar attic fans, everything to keep you cool in the summer. Free estimates, second opinions, and financing with approved credit. Count on Abacus, abacusplumbing.net. That's abacusplumbing.net.
Having the right map to financial success is important. Sadly, 95% of Americans fail to retire at age 65 with only $400,000 in savings. The good news is that there's a better way, a different map. Listen to the Total Wealth Academy radio show weekdays at noon to find out what the 5% who do succeed are doing differently. They focus on building multiple income streams that allow them to retire at any age. Total Wealth will show you how. The Total Wealth Academy radio show weekdays at noon here on KSEV.
And now, we return you to your regularly scheduled dose of common sense. Chris X Radio. Chris X Radio.
Good old school Pink Floyd. Hey, Gary Behemoth, whenever you guys go play golf, do any of you guys sit around and have cigars? I figured you'd be one of them cigar guys. I don't even know what that means, but the Jamaican, those Jamaican cigars are really, really popular with the kids these days. All right, welcome back to Chris X Radio. I'm the aforementioned X-Man, along with Gary Behemoth. I want to thank Bob Price for joining us once again. He's at Bob Price. Hold on, I gotta go look, make sure I'm looking at the proper, so I don't say it wrong. Yeah, at Bob Price BBTX on social media, associate editor and senior news contributor with Breitbart, Texas. He does such a fantastic job. He's one of the best, like I said, journalists that I've been interviewing Bob since long before I was on KSEV. So I'm glad to continue talking with him because he just does such a fine job, and you're not going to get better coverage because he focuses on real news. No, not fake news, real news. So, but now he does a great job, and like I said, he knows his stuff. He's from Texas. He lives here, so he spends time up in the hill country and doing those sort of things. And he's around his way. He goes camping and stuff. Yeah, like I said, I've never camped on the river. You know, we were talking about the flooding, and I've never camped on any of the river. Let me rephrase that. Hold on. I've camped on the San Jacinto River with my dad and my brothers. We would go canoe trip, go down, go to the middle of nowhere now, which is probably all condos and houses and buildings now. But back then we would go camping. So, but no, we'd never do that up in the hill country. For one, you couldn't go very far in a canoe because they're mostly those dry creek beds for the most part. And if there's water in it, you don't want to be in it. So, but we would go up there and spend plenty of time. I was raised up in the hill country. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I still go up to the ranch that we were. You know, my dad took out. It was his deer lease. It was my dad and his brother. Like I said, I don't know how my uncle ended up getting on the deer lease, but anyway, my uncle and my dad were on there for 50 years. And I was there, raised as a kid there for a long time till till I finished up, right about the time I was finishing high school. And then, of course, college, really cut into the time going up there, went there a few times. And then afterwards, when I first started working in radio, you're working 6 days a week. And you just, like I said, I'd never had time to go. And then finally started going, I would just go up and visit. And I went up there the last few times. My dad went up there, and then him and my uncle both, ended up getting off the lease. They got older. And then I ended up, getting on. Just to be on, like I said, because I'm not really much of a deer hunter. But, there's plenty of hogs and varmints out there for me to hunt, to say the least. Okay, so we're done here with the first hour. Let's get you ready for hour number 2. If you want to join us, 281-558-KSEV, 281-558-5738. Got a boatload to get into, so don't you go anywhere. In fact, we barely touched on any of the stuff I actually wanted to cover today, but we'll get it here on the other side of this break. We'll be right back. Don't you go anywhere.